Hi, I hope you guys are doing good today. I am currently getting over the flu, so I probably sound terrible, but I still wanted to try and get a video out today. We're going to be watching Eggnog, A Christmas History, and I thought this would be a fun one to start out our December videos. If you do get a chance, I'd appreciate if you can leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a bunch. And I will have Max's video linked in my description below, so be sure to give him a like and subscribe as well. All right, let's check out Eggnog, A Christmas History.
Eggnog is one of those holiday drinks that you either love or you really, really hate. Personally,
that is kind of true. I'm not a huge fan of eggnog, but I've made eggnog cookies, and those are pretty good. I do like those. And I do think our little Pikachu in the back is adorable.
I love it, especially when it is made from scratch because it doesn't actually taste like what you're going to get at the store. And that is why today I am making from scratch George Washington's unbelievably boozy eggnog. But did our founding father actually make this eggnog? We'll discuss that and more, this time on Tasting History.
I feel like I could use some booze right now.
So with the holidays upon us, I wanted...
Let me know if you guys have made your own eggnog, or if you are a fan, or if you're not a big fan of eggnog. Let me know.
I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you for the most amazing gift that I never knew I wanted. And that is for you all watching Tasting History all year, my Tastorians.
We love you.
Been absolutely mind-blowing. I think that my goal at the beginning of the year was to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. That was the goal, and we made it because I think that we're sitting at around 450,000 right now, maybe even a little bit more by the time I post this. So awesome. Thank you so much. And if you haven't subscribed, do it now. Maybe we'll hit 500 by the end of the year, but that's actually too much.
Because you're amazing, sir.
Thank you for watching. Anyway, George Washington's eggnog. 1 quart cream, 1 quart milk, 1 dozen tablespoons sugar, 1 pint brandy, a half pint rye whiskey, a half pint Jamaica rum, a 1/4 pint sherry. Mix liquor first, then separate yolks and whites of 12 eggs. Add sugar to beaten yolks, mix well. Add milk and cream, slowly beating. Beat whites and eggs until stiff and fold slowly into mixture.
I have to say, I was not expecting this to be like a George Washington recipe. I was not expecting that. So I think this is pretty cool.
Let's set in cool place for several days. Taste frequently. I like that last instruction. Taste frequently. And
yeah, you gotta get some sippy sips in there regularly.
Days. Taste frequently. I like that last instruction. Taste frequently. And I took that to heart all week long, though I'm not exactly sure what I was supposed to be tasting for, but I did as George Washington suggests. And that brings me to the question, is this actually George Washington's recipe? Well, according to the Farmer's Almanac, yes, it is. Supposedly, it came from the kitchen papers at Mount Vernon, but in every collection of the kitchen papers that I could find, I didn't find this recipe. And in fact, the first time that this recipe seems to have come about wasn't until 1948 in a book called Christmas with the Washingtons by Olive Bailey. And she doesn't really cite her sources. Not that it's the kind of book that you would expect that, but still not a lot of help. So could it even be George Washington's recipe? Yeah, it could. It does read like a recipe from the time period, from like the late 1700s. And we do have recipes from George Washington, who actually wrote them down. We have one for beer that he did. And this recipe includes rye whiskey. George was a big fan. He actually had one of the largest rye whiskey distilleries in America at the time. Plus, eggnog was a very popular drink in the late 1700s. But could it be that Miss Bailey just took another recipe and attributed it to George Washington as an...
That wouldn't be surprising either, but I didn't know that eggnog went back that far. I mean, I knew eggnog had been around for a while, but I didn't realize that we are going back, way back.
Bailey just took another recipe and attributed it to George Washington as an act of literary license? Yes, maybe. We'll probably never know. But I ask you, does it matter? It reads like a historical recipe, it's filled with booze, and maybe it is just another one of those pieces of lore surrounding George Washington, like his false teeth being made of wood or chopping down the cherry tree, I cannot tell a lie. But while those are a little hard to swallow, I don't think this one's going to be. So what you'll need is 1 quart or 950 milliliters of cream, 1 quart or 950 milliliters of whole milk, 3/4 of a cup or 150 grams of sugar, 12 medium eggs, or 10 large eggs or 8 extra large eggs, 2 cups or 475 milliliters of brandy.
I always think eggnog looks really good too, but for whatever reason, like I'm not the biggest fan of it. But every time I see pictures of it, I'm like, man, it looks good.
1 cup or 235 milliliters rye whiskey, 1 cup or 235 milliliters dark rum, and a half cup of sherry. You want to use something like a cream sherry, a little bit sweeter than a really dry sherry, though either one will work, but stay away from that cooking sherry. In fact, just leave that at the store. Now there is one ingredient that is missing that is included in a lot of other contemporary eggnog recipes, and that is nutmeg. So, as to not upset John Townsend, I am going to add some nutmeg. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon into the whole recipe, and then I'll probably grate a little bit on top at the end as well. But it is optional. It's not included in the original recipe, but it's gonna make things taste better.
I love that we have so many Townsend references here because Townsend, great channel. I love that channel as well. I do feel like nutmeg does add kind of like that coziness to anything really, like drinks or desserts or anything like that. I do feel like nutmeg kind of adds a little coziness.
So the recipe says to mix the liquors first. I honestly don't know why, but that's what the recipe says, so that's what I did. Next, separate your eggs and add the yolks to a bowl and beat them until they go from a dark yellow to a nice pale yellow. Then slowly beat in the sugar. It's important that you do this just a little bit at a time. If you put it all in, it's not going to incorporate properly. Beating slowly, add in your milk and your cream. Now I started with what I thought was going to be a big enough bowl, but clearly I didn't do my math right and it was not big enough at all, so I had to switch to my Le Creuset Dutch oven. You can feel free to cut it in half because this recipe really is like enough for an entire party, but if you are going to make the full recipe, make sure to get the biggest bowl that you possibly can. Then add in the liquor and mix everything together until nice and smooth. If you are going to add nutmeg or any other spices, cinnamon or ginger or whatever you want, go ahead and do that right now. Next, with either beaters or a whisk,
I love his spatula. It's a little snowman. Oh, I love that.
Or ginger or whatever you want,
it's adorable.
Go ahead and do that right now. Next, with either beaters or a whisk your egg whites until they form nice stiff peaks. One important note, if you are going to be using the same beaters that you used on the egg yolks, make sure to wash and dry them thoroughly because even a little bit of yolk can stop the whites from achieving the nice stiff peaks that you're looking for. Then, ever so slowly, fold the beaten egg whites into the yolk and cream mixture until nicely incorporated. Now at this point, you should have a nice frothy eggnog, and really you can actually drink it right now, but it does say to let it age for a few days in a nice cool spot, so I put mine into the refrigerator for 5 days. Make sure to cover it though. Now while we wait for our nog to age, all the while tasting frequently, let's take a gander at this creamy yet polarizing Christmas cocktail. Eggnog. Eggs and nog. What is nog?
Yeah.
Sounds like something that Pinky would say. Nog! There are actually a few theories kicking around as to where this term nog comes from. In 1693, the Dean of Norwich in England, a Mr. Humphrey Prideaux, wrote, "You will find him walking about his room with a pipe in his mouth, and a bottle of claret and a bottle of old strong beer, which in this country they call nog, upon the table." So maybe it's this strong beer, this nog, that lent its name to what we're making today. Eggs in strong beer makes eggnog. And there is actually another drink called posset, which had been consumed at least since the Middle Ages, that was usually made with milk and strong beer, though it could also be done with wine, and later recipes call for eggs. So it seems a natural evolution. Kind of makes sense.
It does kind of make sense, yeah. But, to be able to mix your alcohol in eggs, milk, or anything like that, probably just because it makes like something new and something a little different, maybe something a little nicer for colder weather.
Recipes call,
although I don't know if it's always been like a cold weather thing,
for eggs, so it seems a natural evolution. Kind of makes sense. Interesting, if slightly off-putting fact about this alcohol curdled milk drink called posset is that today, posset or posseting refers to when a baby spits up milk after feeding. So I think we should change that to eggnogging. You want to?
Yeah, that might be better than baby milk vomit. Yeah, I would have to agree with that one.
Spits up milk after feeding. So I think we should change that to eggnogging. You want to definitely wear that little blanket over your shoulder so the baby doesn't eggnog all down your back.
Yeah, that sounds better.
Another theory is that the word comes from the word noggin, which before it meant your head referred to a wooden cup. And then another is that it actually came from the word nug, which in Scotland at the time was an ale that was warmed by sticking a red-hot poker in it. Possible. The last theory is that it's a contraction of the words egg and grog, though I don't think that's right because, one, it didn't come around until the 1980s, this theory. Two, there's almost no evidence for it because if it had been egg and grog, surely there would have been a point in time where it was eggrog. And you never see that happen.
Yeah.
So how it turned into eggnog.
That's true. Yeah, that one seems a little bit more of a stretch as to how we got to eggnog, as you know, because like you said, I think we would have had like an egg grog at some point. I can't stop staring at this little Pikachu with the Christmas tree costume on though. It's so freaking cute.
That just doesn't make sense. But regardless of where the name came from, it gained popularity in America around the mid-18th century. Fog drams in the morn, or better still, eggnog. At night, hot suppings, and at midday, grog. My palate can regale. That's one of the very first written mentions of eggnog from 1775, written by a Mr. Jonathan Boucher, or Boucher. He was English, so it's impossible to say how he pronounced it, but it kind of reminds me of the Keeping Up Appearances quote, Boucher residence, lady of the house speaking. Except that was Bouquet residence, but if you've never watched that show, it's really funny. What's interesting in regards to our recipe today is that this Mr. Boucher, or Butcher, was actually a good friend of George Washington and even taught his stepson, John Custis. Kind of weird, right? There's another contemporary story from Virginia where Washington lived that impresses me to no end. See, in today's drinking contests, you're rarely asked to do more than throw a ping pong ball into a cup 6 feet away. Not that hard. But in the 18th century, it seems that they liked to test their mental acuity when they were drunk.
So we've gone from intelligence type things to beer pong. That's great though.
18th century, it seems that they liked to test their mental acuity when they were drunk. On last Christmas Eve, several gentlemen met at Northampton Courthouse and spent the evening in mirth and festivity, when eggnog was the principal liquor used by the company. After they had indulged pretty freely in this beverage, a gentleman in company offered a bet that not one of the party could write 4 verses extempore, which should be rhyme and sense. The author then goes on to tell how this supposedly inebriated contestant spits out off the cuff a poem which extols the virtues of eggnog over wine and includes the stanza, "'Tis eggnog now whose golden streams dispense far richer treasures to the ravished sense. The muse from wine derives a transient glare, but eggnog's daughters afford her solid fare." I can't imagine being able to come up with that completely sober with as much time as I was allowed. I'm always impressed by 18th and 19th century people and their ability to craft things with words. Clearly something I do not possess, craft things with words.
No, I think you do fine, Max. You do great. I will say though, I feel like there's like a lot of outside the box thinking and much more like extravagant times back then where people kind of had that, I don't know, I guess like that zing for literature. I mean, like I am horrible with words, so I definitely get what he's saying because that's totally how I feel whenever he like shows things from, even if it's just like advertisements or like small articles or even like journal entries, like when we watch like some of the Titanic stuff, everybody just writes so eloquently. So to see people kind of like write things in certain ways as to describe, something as simple as eggnog, I think it's kind of cool because I feel like nobody talks like this anymore, and nobody kind of has that creativity to their writing anymore. So I definitely get it. I get what he's saying. And I too wish I was better with words because I feel like I am so far from that.
With words, clearly something I do not do not possess. Craft things with words. Anyway, by this writing, we can see that Christmas and eggnog had a connection. It was being drunk on Christmas Eve. But where did that connection come from? We don't really know. I mean, it could have been served hot.
That is true. Like where did we get Christmas? Like where did it come from that it became such a big Christmas drink? Because I feel like eggnog is pretty, even if you don't like it, I feel like everybody knows eggnog exists like around the holidays.
Hot at times, which would make sense to have it then in the winter months. Other drinks such as the nug that I mentioned, as well as something called smoking bishop that was popular in the 19th century, where they would take a red hot poker and stick it into the drink to warm it up, were very, very popular at the time. So maybe they did the same thing with eggnog. Who knows? Also, Christmas being a special occasion, it might have warranted the cost of making eggnog, because even without the liquor, the eggs, the cream, and especially the sugar were very, very expensive at the time.
Right.
It was even enough to possibly put a dent in old, wealthy Washington's purse. In a letter written on December 26, 1788, Washington admitted, "I have never before felt the want of cash so severely as at present." And of course...
That's so funny to, like what a way to say, like, oh man, my wallet took a hit.
"I have never before felt the want of cash so severely as at present. And of course, any moneys that may arise from my property under your care could never come more opportunely than at this time." Now, was it really eggnog that made him cash poor that year, or had he been remodeling his kitchen or impulse bought a horse? Who knows? But it is clear that the Washingtons did like to splurge at the holidays. They would often host large parties with guests staying at Mount Vernon. They would go fox hunting and drinking and have exotic animals come visit.
Okay, so this sounds like a very extravagant holiday season to have, so I would imagine this would hurt your wallet quite a bit, for sure.
Yes, in his Christmas expense ledger in 1787, Washington wrote, "By the man who brought a camel from Alexandria for a show, 18 shillings. After the fox hunting and the camel peeping, there were often big meals, something that Washington once referred to as the attack of Christmas pies, which I just love.
I love that too, the attack of Christmas pies. We should bring that back. I think we got to bring that back. You know, more pie for everyone.
Referred to as the attack of Christmas pies, which I just love. There was one pie that they had that was a turkey, a goose, a fowl, a partridge, and a pigeon baked into a crust. Then on 12...
Oh, that I mean that sounds very meaty. That's a whole lot going on in this pie.
A fowl, a partridge, and a pigeon baked into a crust. Then on 12th night, Martha Washington would serve her famous great cake, which was made with 40 eggs and 4 pounds of butter. So
40 eggs and 4 pounds of butter. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Well, I guess it's good you only ate this like once a year. Holy.
Famous great cake, which was made with 40 eggs and 4 pounds of butter. So between that and the eggnog, the poor chickens and cows of Mount Vernon must have found Christmas time very taxing. And add insult to injury, a camel is getting all of the attention. Really not fair.
Not
but
fair.
You really can't fault poor George Washington for wanting to splurge a little bit at the holidays, because for much of his life, Christmas sucked. In 1740, when George was only 8 years old, his home on Ferry Farm burnt down on Christmas Eve.
His house burnt down on Christmas Eve? Oh my God. I did not know that. I did not know that tidbit about him. Oh my gosh. That's terrible though. Can you imagine your house burning down on Christmas Eve? Like of all days your house could have burned down, it's going to burn down on Christmas Eve.
George was only 8 years old. His home on Ferry Farm burnt down on Christmas Eve.
Gosh.
Then during Christmas of 1753, during the French and Indian War, George got shot at by a group of French Indians at a place endearingly called Murdering Town. Then...
Wait, it was called Murdering Town. Oh my gosh. Well, sounds like a rough childhood for George.
French Indians at a place endearingly called Murdering Town. Then in 1777, during the American Revolution, while running low on food and whiskey, Washington and his army of 12,000 spent Christmas at Valley Forge, where upwards of 1 out of 6 of them would die. And then on Christmas Day in 1790, George found out that his favorite horse, Nelson, the horse that had got him through the Revolutionary War, had died. I mean, come on. Give
this man a break. I mean, for one of our founding fathers, bro just needs a little bit of a bone here. Like throw him a bone at least one of these years, right?
It got him through the Revolutionary War had died. I mean, come on. Give this man a break.
Yeah.
Christmas hasn't been this hard on a George since It's a Wonderful Life. But just as George Bailey, in hindsight, had some really wonderful Christmases, so too did George Washington. One of his most memorable was in 1776, when he crossed the Delaware to surprise a camp of Hessian mercenaries. Cold and wet perhaps at the time, in hindsight, it was a very good Christmas for our founding father. Now, in contrast to the popular myth that the Germans who were fighting on behalf of the English were drunk that day, John Greenwood, a Continental soldier who was actually there, wrote, "I am willing to go upon oath that I did not see even a solitary drunken soldier belonging to the enemy." Fortunately for me, I don't have any battles to fight today, so I look forward to having a nice cup of George Washington's eggnog.
You can drink up and start feeling good.
So after a few days, or really whenever you want, go ahead and serve yourself a glass of eggnog. As I said, I'm going to grate a little fresh nutmeg on top. And here we are. George Washington eggnog.
This looks delicious. I don't know. Eggnog just looks cozy to me. It always just looks so cozy. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of it, I still have a sip of it here and there just because I don't know. I don't know. It has this really nice Christmas aesthetic to it too that I can't help myself. But I will say though, when I made these eggnog cookies though, they were delicious. I thought they were really, really good.
Maybe. Eggnog all the same. Let's give it a try. Top is foamy. That is good. Oh my gosh, that is so strong. It really hits you. At first it's oh, it's sweet and creamy, and then it's oh, it's sweet and creamy. It doesn't taste anything like modern day eggnog, like what you would get at the store. I mean, it's totally different. It's creamy and rich, but it's not thick, and sometimes it coats the stuff that you get at the store coats your throat.
That is true. The store-bought eggnog, it is really thick, and I think maybe that's what's a little off-putting to me. I don't know, but yeah, it is pretty what he's explaining here. It that is very true. It is very, very thick.
And sometimes it coats the stuff that you get at the store, coats your throat. This isn't. It's much lighter actually. It's very boozy. It's really good. I would actually add a little bit of cinnamon or ginger or more nutmeg, to kind of make the flavors come alive even more. But as it is, it's really, really good. So instead of a standard Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, I'm going to leave you with some words from George Washington himself. We remain in status quo and all unite in offering you and yours the compliments of the season and the return of many, many more and happy ones.
I love this. This is very sweet. I really, really like this. This is very well said. Good job, George Washington.
Thanks for watching.
This was great. I really enjoyed this one. And I mean, maybe I should try to make homemade eggnog. I don't know. I'm not a huge drinker either, so I don't know. I don't know if I will end up making this one or not, but I mean, the fact that it's a little bit lighter, maybe I would actually enjoy this one. But either way, the history of it, I absolutely loved. And this recipe looks the recipe really doesn't look like it's too crazy. So, I mean, I think if I did decide to make it, I don't think it would be too hard. But as always, this was wonderful. And I think this was a great way to start off our December, our December videos. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate you guys being here, and I am sorry that I sound so stuffed up and gross. But I did want to try to get a video out for today. So thank you for bearing with me and putting up with my sickness. But that's going to do it for me. And be sure to go like and subscribe to Tasting History with Max Miller. He does an amazing, amazing job. But I am going to go lay back on the couch now, but I hope you guys had a great day, and I will see you in the next one.